No, that's a
Yeah, it is.
state.
I mean, I think
It is a state. It's a legal thing.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it works out.
So I'm trying not to hurry this too much, cause there's a lot of.
I agree.
Yep.
Generally, there seems to be plenty of water, but we have seen some instances where it's been low. So surprise, you know. And ultimately, we don't really there anyway. You really have to pump those wells. Don't know till you do it, I guess.
And the tower, as far as I know, we're still. Yeah, I know.
But what, you know, it doesn't hurt to move off one tower, so we're doing this one. I'd like to get it done, especially before we get into any closer to Christmas, because the lab starts shutting down, they have really consistent schedules. So we should get that thermal well put in. They don't need to get the wiring finished for me to start filling the tower.
Right.
You know? So, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah, I know, it's like, known about this for 6 months, what?
They must have thought it was gonna take longer to look or something.
I don't know.
I think it just got backburnered, and then someone realized, oh shoot, we never ordered that. You know?
Yeah,
And
I know.
no big deal. That's a small thing. I'm glad that the rest of the low ran smoothly.
Yeah.
So that was good.
It was probably here for you for the little ring.
I could not be out here, we had a couple guys out here, we took some drone photos, I think, did you get those?
Yeah, they sent over a bunch of,
Okay.
linked to a bunch of files and some video.
It was worth every penny entertainment wise. I woke up at 4 o'clock. And I could see out there and we lighted some sparks. They cutting it, and I was like, they weren't lying. They were gonna be up there.
It's so foggy.
A couple days I felt bad for him up on that lift all the way up and welding those outside lugs. It was pretty lousy weather, but those guys, they're pretty tough, I guess. They work in some bad conditions.
Yeah.
I just sent Charles a message.
So it's in, you capture the new increment.
He may be working late. I don't know. I don't know what time it is. Call the Stuart Municipal Utilities Council Chambers, tentative agenda Thursday, December 11th, 2025, 5:30 PM. We'll do roll call. Belden? Eric? Crawford?
Here.
Sherman? Here. Avy here. Okay, before we start, we're gonna move number 8 up to where number 5 is. And then agenda approval, consent agenda, minutes of regular meeting of 11/13/2025, financial statement as of 11/30/2025, and bills as presented. Do we have a motion? Okay, how do you vote? Belden? Yes. Crawford?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Amy? Yes. Okay, Brick Gentry, Adam Hosey to provide update and board discussion. Before we talk, it's a personnel matter, so we can't say no names unless we have permission.
Mission?
Do you care?
No.
let's get it all out and done with.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Just to clarify on Dallas.
Or Dallas, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's what it said on the paper, so.
Oh, it does.
Mr. Brick wrote a memo to you. It really outlines the issues very clearly. There's kind of three things that you worry about with this kind of thing. It's a combination of compensation, an incompatible office, and a conflict of interest. The compensation and incompatible offices are not issues that we really need to be concerned about. This is a role that is very different from the daily employment of the newly elected council person. Their daily employment has defined duties that do not intersect with what a council person has to do. The main question is about a conflict of interest. The city council here in Stuart nominates the people who serve, or appoints the people who serve on this board. I think the mayor probably nominates them, and then the council approves or disapproves, and that's how people find their job on this board. Ultimately, this council person answers to this board through their employer, Mr. Howdy. And so any time that an issue would come up where a potential conflict would arise, it would be wise to have the council person identify that there is a potential conflict and abstain from voting.
And he, at his first meeting, he did say he would do that.
Okay,
So,
so that is really the main issue. So that would be when we're appointing a new member of this board who would ultimately have some control over the employee. His work as counselor should not allow him to select who his employer is going to be. That would create a conflict. So we can resolve that very simply by just having him abstain from those votes. The council is large enough, so there will still be a quorum, there will still be enough votes to pass things without his vote. So that would be our advice, to just have him abstain. The other issues we really don't think are things that we have to be concerned about because of the reasons that are outlined in Mr. Brick's memo.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me about that?
I don't.
Yes, generally speaking, how can, this should have been done a long time ago, like 2 decades, 3 decades ago. So our employees, we're a small town, obviously, and so when people want to volunteer, we don't have a list of people coming out of the woodwork to volunteer. So when they do, is there some generalities that you can throw out that you got zoning boards, you got other things?
It really is kind of a case-by-case basis and what the facts are. What the job duties that they have as an employee versus what they would have as a government person with some authority.
So is it best in those cases to vet those before appointment to make sure in the event there was an employee that wanted to serve in those capacities, that it gets vetted legally before?
Yes, I do think that would be a good idea to vet those ahead of time, so you don't get into a situation where, oh, all of a sudden we're voting on something and you're thinking, hold on a second, aren't you voting on something that's gonna directly affect your employment?
Okay.
It would be a good idea to try to identify those issues beforehand, so that everybody involved can decide, is it right for you to keep working in the same employment? Is it right for you to take this position within the government? And then the right decision can be made when, you kind of have the information and what the consequences might be.
And with all due respect, not to speak out of turn, that was done.
We didn't know that, though. We had never seen an opinion that
Yeah.
was brought up at our last meeting. It was not discussed, not shared with us at all. So that, I mean, that was,
And
and I don't know why that is. So, I don't have that. I've never, so.
With the commingled natures of the two entities,
Mhm.
I'm just trying to think of hypotheticals where something like that goes. Wouldn't you potentially come into play where you have employee versus city and an official is also part of the city?
I have a hard time seeing where that would be a conflict of interest problem or a problem with the Iowa code as it talks about incompatible offices. I do think that, whatever happened here before, I don't really have anything to say about.
There's been cases in 20 years that I've been involved in, I'm sure decades before that, where we can point to places where we had a zoning administrator, he was I think, was he called acting? And he couldn't be a council, I can't remember, couldn't be the acting zoning administrator and a council member, something like that.
Sure.
So we had to go through that process, and then that came up in an audit or somebody in the public employee, I can't remember the circumstances, but to avoid those things, what's the best way to proactively do this versus in the rearview mirror?
I do think that the city has some issues with that they would need to get ironed out. This board is separate from the city.
Right.
You govern the utility. That's, it's there's kind of two ways to run a utility in Iowa. It's either this way or it's under the council. And if the council ran the utility, it might be a problem for somebody to be on the council and
Gotcha.
to be an
Okay.
employee. But we don't have that
Sure.
here because you're your own separate government.
Okay.
You operate the utility and you are separate and independent from what the city does. The
So
city
it's a money trail deal then, basically wherever, if the money is separated from by a separate board or an entity, then it's mutually exclusive from a council.
It's a money and a control and power question. So, we don't want to have somebody who's an employee exercising control over their employers by reason of serving on a council.
Fair.
But from an accountability issue, chain of command, who is this body accountable to?
This body is accountable to,
That's a fair point.
Council. It's accountable to the city council in that the council appoints you.
But if we do something out of line, or the entity goes bankrupt in some sense, or who ultimately are we accountable to?
The citizens of this city could decide to pull the governance of the utility back under the city council, and then the city council will be able to control things. There's cities around that have done that. But that would be multiple steps that had to happen then before we got to that point. And frankly, if that happened, then we might go to our new council member and say, hey, it might be a good idea for you to step aside because you're about to be your own boss.
It's in the city code about that. There's, like he said, there's different steps you have to take for that to happen. And there has to be certain reasons for it to happen.
Okay. Do you agree that there's a difference between one employee serving and if the entire council were?
Yes, that would be a problem because then we wouldn't have a quorum to be able to appoint this board.
Right.
We wouldn't have enough votes to be able to do anything that maybe if this board asked the city council to approve some kind of expenditure that was necessary for your operations, we wouldn't have enough people on the council to legally pass that measure. So it would be an issue that you would say, hey, we still want to make sure we can have a quorum here with anybody abstaining who's got a conflict or a potential conflict.
We're always in this, these are great questions that both entities should be saying because we're in this weird gray area because the number of people, let's say if Pat Howie decided he wanted to be on the council. I
would say he would not be allowed to do that because is yours an appointed position?
No, he's completely under the,
You're just an employee of the
utilities, just no
utilities,
different.
yeah.
I think he would be okay then, because he answers to you, this
Okay.
board.
This
Even in
board
an
was formed
administrative
under
role.
election, it's a separate.
But
it's
how
in
could he
code,
do
but-
that? Cause when we do, wages, he's included in that.
He wouldn't be able to participate in
That's
that vote.
abstain.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna do it.
Why not?
So,
He doesn't seem interested.
as an example to whatever you use for the first two examples of the three issues,
Yeah.
if there was a shared employee across both sides, that would negate them from being involved. If they're, again, the money trail, if it flowed part from city, part from utilities, that would negate them from being involved in
Yes,
not involved, but they would have to pick, right?
it would be a very different question, because
Okay.
you'd be talking about an employee directly of the city government who's controlled and answers to the board that they're on,
Because we have
and then
that.
we have,
We
then
have
we
that.
have an issue.
We have that.
So, Ash, when there's an HR, or something in an HR or capacity that needs to be happening from a utility employee, does that HR problem or issue or question come through you eventually? In what sense do you have some authority or some connection with the utility employees and their operation and their employment?
Utility employees, I don't have a lot.
Okay.
Was it, I don't have a lot with the utility. Because the structure is giving the utility board is a
But
for
isn't
these
it
things.
unionized
But
though?
the
That's
day-to-day
real control of
operation,
Pat? I mean,
yeah, I can be a consultant.
Not under the union.
Utility.
no, I know you're not, but isn't there?
Okay.
wouldn't-
But really, the people
Aware of so that they can recuse themselves on that specific issue. If it, I mean, because of the commingled nature, we have meetings together, joint meetings, and we vote on things that affect both the city and the utility.
So you're back to conflict of interest.
Right.
The conflict of interest, I think, we received today some information from the city attorney, will be passing it out, because as you mentioned, the conflict of interest is a gray area, you know?
Right.
So we just have to keep on providing more information as we receive to avoid conflict of interest. In a small town, it's very hard, and that's very well known over the whole state, because small town, everyone is related to each other. So the conflict happen just about every other meeting.
Right.
You just have to work with your attorney, provide information constant to the council and to the board too, because
Right.
conflict of interest happen to both.
Right.
You just abstain.
Yes, and I think if the council member or the board member are aware of the conflict of interest, they will be able to differentiate
Is
between.
that Ash's job to identify those early to protect that employee, is what I'm getting at? That's what.
It's all of our jobs, I think. I
Well,
would say it's
we're
not Ash's.
We're not gonna be at a council meeting or know what the
No.
agenda is, what I'm saying.
But we can see what's on the agenda. I mean, I look at the agenda all the time.
I go to all the council
If-
meetings.
I'm just saying though, but if you're not, right?
Right.
We're volunteers. Ash would then bring the issue up.
If you
It's
hear
going
what
to be up to the individual member to identify and self-report, hey, I have a conflict on
Okay.
this. My brother owns this construction company that we're about to award this contract to. We might not know that at the council meeting, so it'd be the same thing for this person. They would have to look at the agenda, see the item coming up and say, hey, I can't really vote on this. You know, if it's in the consent agenda, it has to be pulled out of the consent agenda and voted on separately. If it's something that has its own separate item and we're doing a hearing on it, they just wouldn't cast a vote.
Fair.
And it's recommended that the council member and board member consult with me and the city attorney over
Yeah.
that stuff if they have a doubt. Okay?
If they go into, if they get the agenda and say,
Yes.
hey, there's something on here, they can go ask your city administrator, who can loop us in and say, all right, let's figure this out. Is this really a conflict? And we can help in that
Absolutely.
analysis.
I feel like, do you feel like we've done what we need to do as a board to protect our employee and to protect our utility
I think that
citizen,
you've
or
done,
utility, our town, you know what I mean, from litigious BS?
I think you've done some wonderful due diligence here. You've made sure that this is not a problem. And you've invited the public to be a part of the discussion. You've invited the employee to be a part of the discussion. I think you've done everything you need to do.
We just didn't want him to lose his job because he has a family.
But it's,
That's what it boils down
but
to.
it's all
Yeah.
employees. I mean, it should,
Well,
and that's
right.
my whole
And I
thing.
think
Right.
we're good at this point that
And we don't want to
everything.
discourage your citizens from stepping up and
Right.
serving their
Yeah.
government.
Right, right.
Just because they happen to have an employment that, you know, also
Right.
is quasi-government. Yeah.
Yep.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
I
think
hope
you've
we're
done
all
the right
happy, you know. That's awesome thing that you guys provided us, the legal opinion, and we appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank
and
you for
any other
coming out.
questions you have, you can email Steve or myself. We'd be
Sure.
happy to weigh in on it. But
Sure.
As you think about these things more, I'm sure there'll be things that you're questioning and you can reach out.
Yeah, from what I'm gathering, it just depends on the role of the employee, whether it needs to be, you know,
Yeah,
and the shared situation is completely different than not.
yep, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help and thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Would you recommend to put this in the minutes or not? Or just leave it?
The written report from your attorney, I would not, personally, I would say it's up to you. That is subject to the attorney-client privilege, even though I've talked to you about it in an open setting. If you want to waive privilege on that memo, you're allowed to, and you can put it in the minutes. That's your decision
Fine with
entirely.
it.
It's just,
Okay.
it just shows open book, that's all I'm getting at.
He's,
I just wish you would've gotten this in August.
he's fine with it, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine, I just was asking.
But you would be
No,
entitled
Trevor
to
is.
keep it secret,
Oh,
as you
gotcha.
keep your conversations with an attorney. You know, generally in the letters that you pass back and forth with your attorneys personally, you don't have to expose those to the world. And this body would have the same right, so if you put it in there, you're just waiving that privilege. for
On
the
this
next year.
particular document?
Yep.
Okay, so
So you're not
We
waiving
can
all
put
the
a
privilege.
conclusion.
is it common to do that or not?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's common or
That's up to you,
uncommon.
Chair.
We can put the conclusion
Okay.
that it was okay by
That's
the
fine.
city. We don't have to put it really in details.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to put it on the record that I have no conflict with any one person being on the
Oh,
city council.
I don't
From
either.
a-
Nobody said you did.
No, I know, but I've been aggressive in my questioning on this, and I just wanted to make sure it was not, that I was, or anyone here was going after any particular person
No,
on
no,
this.
Right.
this
I
topic.
say-
If I remember right, when you were, how'd you end up getting on the school board? Did you
Oh,
run
that's
or?
a different
nobody ran.
subject.
No, hold on, you were
Nobody
on the
ran,
Yeah.
and
you were-
I was a write-in candidate.
Okay,
And
but
my-
I think we
Right.
checked that out at that time.
Yeah.
We did,
yeah.
yeah, we did.
So, I mean,
And
it's, you
while
gotta do it.
serving in that position, I felt I had to walk a tightrope. I knew it was an allowed thing for me to be on the school board,
Yeah.
but I also knew that I had to be very vigilant with anything that came across, that if I needed to
Commingled,
abstain,
yeah, the athletic complex or whatever, yeah.
from anything that surrounded, because my wife was an employee at the school district.
Well,
So-
yeah, but I mean, we had an athletic complex that, we had a 2080 with the school, so I mean, there was things probably then too, but
Yeah,
anyway.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
keeping
you.
us out of trouble.
Me today?
No, you're good, thank you. Be careful on the road.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, water treatment facility study update, Forrest.
Tell Steve, thank you for his,
Yes, tell him thank you.
So this is just an update. Mainstream Chem hired Mid-States Hydro to take a look at the aquifer out south of Redfield. And what we wanted it to investigate was how much water do we have out there? I mean, the report up to this point had said that we're assuming we have unlimited water and out in that aquifer, and we'd be able to take all the water we need moving forward. The conclusion of this report, and if you look at page 6, the first 2 bullet points are actually first 2 bullet points. Agri-Equities was a irrigation company out there using a lot of the water for irrigating. They are gone, so that has opened up that source of water to others.
could that come back though, or, did their lease expire, or what made them?
Yeah, they've been gone. 20
Right,
years.
but could someone else come back in with those same rights, no? Okay,
So that well no longer has a permit, or it's
Right.
been
gotcha.
closed down, or?
I don't know, I'm just,
But part of it is, the second bullet point is if we have a period of drought, there is not enough water to serve Stuart's needs, Redfield's needs, and Dexter's needs. So this year, we'd be fine. We have enough water. But if it was back in 2012, we would not have enough water. We would run out of water. And so right now, they're saying that's maybe every 20 years. Climate is doing wonky things these days with a lot more peaks and valleys and wet years and dry years. So maybe more frequent than that. So before we move forward with a water plant and solely relying on that aquifer, we need to make sure we have another source of water. In addition to that Redfield aquifer.
but I thought we left the last meeting that we were gonna ask Xenia if they were even willing to buy this, because if they're not willing to buy it, there's no sense in even studying anything.
Well, I'm hearing there's not even enough water for us to be on it. Is that what you're saying?
There's not enough water for us to be on Redfield aquifer without selling anything.
Okay, so that's
So-
that's stop number 1.
That's stop number 1.
Right.
So what we can do is, we have a Jordan aquifer right outside the building out
Mhm.
here. We could rehabilitate that Jordan aquifer. It's gonna be expensive to do that, and we can come up with the cost for what that does, and what does that do to our financial model that Jeff is
But if-
working on.
Going back to the other point though, if Xenia's not willing to buy this, even if we rebuilt everything, and even if Redfield had enough water, and they won't buy it, I wouldn't be in support of asking our citizens to pay for a water treatment plant. I wanted to fund this through selling water to Xenia and getting outside of Xenia, right? Turning them into a buyer versus a seller.
Right, I know. So taking this, I'm trying to take this one step at a time with this and not try and have a shotgun approach
And all I'm saying is if Xenia tells us no, they're not willing to buy it, then I don't understand what we would even want to look at this any further for, because $10 million on our balance sheet doesn't cash flow without raising rates, a lot.
Yeah, but it wasn't that far and you're coming out ahead, I can't remember what, somewhere between 5 and 10 years and you're ahead of the game. So I'm just saying
Because we don't have that cost of buying the water regardless of what
Right.
we're selling. Okay.
Yes.
I can't remember that Excel table we looked at. It's been, what?
I know, it's been a
Yeah.
few months.
I'm with you.
So I guess a couple choices for the board. So the other is we could go to Xenia and say, okay, in periods of drought, are you willing to sell us?
Right, turn the valve the other way. I don't know.
Turn the valve.
Yeah.
And provide water. So I'm looking for direction from the board, and direction choices are, one, if we can't look at we don't have enough water that we need in a drought in Redfield Aquifer, let's just stop right here and keep on doing what we're doing. Number two is, let's see if we can find that other source of water. Let's see what the cost would be to rehabilitate the Jordan well. It wouldn't affect the treatment that much because, sorry to interrupt. No, okay, thanks, Matt. Because the treatment plant is designed to have filters and reverse osmosis so we could handle the less quality water from Jordan.
That's what I was gonna ask, is what was in that water source that made us go to?
It's really high in TSS, total suspended solids,
Radionuclide.
some radionuclides, some
So
fluoride.
does anybody else use that water
Oh,
source
yeah.
around? Okay,
Oh,
all
sure.
right.
Yep. You just have to, we have to for sure go to right now we're using reverse osmosis treatment to do the softening of the water,
Mhm.
to take the hardness out. We would have to have it also remove all this other stuff
Okay.
as well. But it's the
Not a
same.
large cost
Not a large
difference
cost
because you're going through.
because you're already doing not a large cost difference in treatment, but it's the additional cost of
Rebuilding it.
rebuilding that well that's quarter mile deep, half mile deep.
So,
And there's a little bit of consideration with just that waste stream we'll have from that.
the what?
Yeah, the waste.
Getting rid of that waste that we remove from that water, because then we're dealing with the city as far as we're sending them a waste stream that has lots of fluoride and radionuclides and nasty
Yeah.
stuff in it, and
Which
they
is a
have to
higher-
treat that at their treatment plant, so that's just it's not a,
You're talking about.
not a
Xenia.
deal
You're talking
breaker.
about pulling this out and sending it to Xenia. They're
No,
gonna.
no, no.
No,
I'm
to
sorry.
the,
I'm
We're
talking
pulling
the
this
Jordan
stuff out
well.
and sending it to the city's wastewater plant.
When we pump water out of our Jordan well and we remove that nasty stuff, then we have that nasty stuff. We have to send that to our wastewater
Okay.
plant, and then they have to deal with
Gotcha.
it. So it's a
Nobody wanted to say-
consideration.
And the concentration's gonna be much higher down there than it is coming out of the well.
Yeah, but it gets commingled with all the residential
That's
waste,
true.
so it's something we'd have to look at.
so more or less, this is gonna cost a lot more money than what we ever were planning on.
No,
I
it's
know,
not that.
I know he didn't say that, but
Yeah, I mean, we need to see what the cost of that Jordan well is, or is Xenia willing to sell us water during the drought? And that would be the next step, is for me to look at those two sources.
my feeling is it gonna be worth it? Spending all this money to check all this out and then not be able to do it?
It'd be under our current agreement that we have with you, and is what we would do this.
So I guess it's fine to look at that. I guess I still go back to that first point, and I don't have that Excel file here to look at that repay schedule, but if you throw out Xenia's ability to buy our water, what is that payback and what's it do to the rates for the people in town? Because I remember the table and you had that in there as if they would buy stuff at capacity capacity for a plant that was double our size, and it paid for the whole thing, and there was no increase to, you know.
Yeah, and then I give you this table that Matt just handed to me, if you want to look at it, but it's been a while since I looked at it too. It was
You guys are quiet.
yeah, we assume 4%.
I'm just wondering if they got any feedback.
You can look at it, Brian, but it's been a while.
No, he's talking to them.
Oh,
He was saying they were being too quiet.
I don't get accused of
My
that
thought
too
would be that, we're not talking a whole lot of money for me to continue looking at this, and at least then we'll know.
Can we?
And I can look at if, what is
The
this?
black and white answer is if they're gonna buy this stuff or not, right? That's what my
Yeah.
question is. That's just mine. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but I'm not in this game to try to raise, to me, what this is a hedge against is the expense that's going to be incurred by Des Moines Water Works. And I don't know, Chip, if you have more info on that projected cost, but Xenia's gonna be back here, and we can't blame them for it, because, I mean, what, is it nitrate? I don't even know, but, I mean, it's,
Nitrates.
yeah, I mean, some of the articles I read, it's going to be very expensive for whatever they have to do to fix that.
Yeah, it is.
So,
Well, and it could, at some point, what we're talking about here down the road, it could pay for us to build our own plant.
I'm with
because
you,
of that.
I'm with you, I
So
just,
that's why I think we keep going with it.
yeah, and I'm fine with it, I just,
Because 5 years down the road, we may find out the cheaper option is build a plant.
yeah, it would be nice to know if these folks will buy this, because then you can actually look at these numbers and say, okay, we got somebody to buy this, and they'll sell to us in a time of drought, but at least we just have a little, and it doesn't have to be in writing, I'm just saying, you talk to the operations head, and they say, yeah, of course, we would buy this if it met these specs or whatever. And you had a cost number in there, I think, didn't we get Madrid's cost number or something?
Yeah.
I thought we did, is like
Because they're selling it back to.
yeah, so if Madrid's selling it, why wouldn't they buy it for us if we sell it to them at a 10% lower cost? I don't know.
Right.
Chip, you're quiet too.
I'll tell you about that later.
Okay, anyway, no, I'm done rambling, so.
So my recommendation is let's keep looking at this, it's under our current agreement we have with you. Talk to Xenia, see what they're willing to do, see what it takes to rehabilitate the Jordan. And then if you have all those numbers and you say, great report, let's see what Xenia does and what Central Iowa Water Works does here in the next couple of years, you can wait. But you're ready to go, if things change. Or we look at these numbers and Xenia's willing to buy the water.
Yeah, if they're ready to go, then it makes,
everything, and we pull the trigger.
I mean, where are you guys at on this with feedback and just, I mean, is it just unknowns?
I'd love to give you feedback.
Well, no, I'm just saying, is it just unknowns? Because
It's not.
who knows what's in that Jordan well or what?
No, we actually know what's going on with that. It's more just that, as far as building a plant, that's one thing, and if we wanted to go that direction, that could potentially be a good deal for us, if Forrest wants to continue looking into that. We should probably have that discussion with Xenia. It's my understanding from some brief discussion I've had, they cannot purchase water from someone that they are already selling water to, and they are now a member of Central Iowa Water Works. So I think the likelihood of us selling them water is low, but only Forrest could figure that out. But I wouldn't probably plan on that happening. We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
It could happen.
I
I can say.
know the people at Central Iowa Water Works, and we'll see what they say.
Okay.
I can say
Is there any other
operationally.
contingency plans besides Des Moines Water Works? Is there any
That's
other
a great
contingency
question.
plans besides Des Moines Water Works? Is there any other place where we could draw water from?
And
Or
Charles,
is
that's what he's.
Jordan and,
That's what.
Yeah,
the
that's
other
what we've
one?
been trying to look at for several
Right.
months, and, that's a great question. That's where we've kind of landed, and everything's been exhausted except for this, and so, it's not pretty,
Right.
to your point, it's not
I
pretty.
mean, I
We're in
don't
the
know
desert.
if you remember back in the 80s when we had our own Jordan well, when we were
Yeah.
pumping out of that.
Yep, yeah.
I mean, it
rock
was
salt,
floaties
Yeah,
and all sorts of stuff. I don't want to resort back to that by no
Yeah.
means.
Be different.
The quality of water is very poor at
yeah,
that
right,
time.
right.
We'd be
Right.
treating
know.
it differently though.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, there's also cost in that because now you got filters and everything else that you're gonna be replacing.
Mhm.
I mean, what's the saturation of all this stuff?
So, he went through an operation expense and he sized all of that and he's pulled in a lot of those things to build that and maintain that. And there'll be additional work and all of that. And so he needs a copy of this, but,
Yeah, cause he
Yeah,
was.
there's about 180 things going on that
Okay.
spreadsheet, so, I mean, it's really well done, but.
And sorry I was late.
No,
Oh,
you're
that's
fine.
okay.
In the trenches today.
And if I can add one more thing, just briefly, just get it off my chest. Operationally, it is gonna be very difficult for us to have a relationship where we purchase water part of the time and then sell water part of the time. When it comes to the testing, the regulation, the permitting, that would not be a fun system to be an operator in, where you are a consecutive system and they are the consecutive system for things like consumer confidence reports and just regular monitoring and operations. That would not be a fun system to work in, is what I'm saying, like for an operator.
So that's unique, that's something that sounds a lot,
One or
it
the other
sounds like
is
it should
fine.
work, but there's a lot more to it than just
There
saying
would
just
be
flip
a
the
lot
switch.
to that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it may be, if we pull water out of the Jordan and then we can sell water to Xenia, we're not having.
That's what, yeah,
We're not having to
I'm with
do
you,
both.
my,
I agree with Ben, that would create some headaches for the staff.
my concern is, we get all this, we continue through this, we don't know if we have a buyer in Xenia, and if we don't, what are these and you may have already sized the expenses on this.
Like that. But the Jordan puts another wrinkle into that,
Right,
so
right.
we'll have to.
But if we're not selling it, we wouldn't have to build, if I remember right, we wouldn't have to build a bigger plant right
Correct.
away.
But
We
the-
could add to it as we grew.
But the expense of building a plant bigger was not dollar for dollar, right? It wasn't double the cost for double
No.
the water. That was my point,
Yeah.
which, you know.
Correct, but you wouldn't have to spend it all up front.
True,
If you were
yeah,
just gonna serve
yeah.
our city.
Yep, I'm with you.
Right.
You size a town of 3,000 versus, size a town of 10,000, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But the cost you said, I can't remember what it was, but,
Yeah, I mean, you like make the building bigger, but you don't put the equipment in.
Right.
Kind of thing. So
Gotcha.
there's,
okay.
so, yeah, just, that's kind of an update on where we're at, and,
If,
uh,
if it's not that much incremental cost and fits in what we have, that's okay. If we can just get closure to whether Xenia is going to play ball or not on a buyer, I can see that. It's just,
so that's what I like to do, is talk to Xenia and look at the Jordan and report back to this board what we find out. And I'll make sure to include Ben and Pat, any discussions we have with Xenia.
Based on your findings in a non-drought year, I mean, how much are we even able to sell to Xenia? That, I mean,
I don't,
good point. Doesn't meet the capacity of what this
right,
table
if we're
put
drawing
together.
more from that
Yeah.
source, how much more
Yeah.
can we draw before it becomes a problem?
And then at what point do you draw on it and then the existing people that are using it,
yeah, so there'd be 40, I'm looking at that chart that's on page 5, there's 40 million, 35 million gallons a year.
Operationally, there's kind of a magic number of 500,000 because that's where we kind of move into the next, where DNR kind of separates as like systems below 500,000 gallons a day, a little bit more. So that's what permitting wise
Yeah.
starts to affect the grade of our plant, and a lot of the compliance that we do is once you get over that 500,000 gallons a day, which is what we're permitted for now.
500,000 a day. And so how does that relate to the?
Up to.
Can't do that math in my head.
No, that's fine. Why not? Chip, you got that done? Here he is.
That's 182,500,000 gallons.
How many a day? Divided by 365.
500,000.
500,000 a day.
Oh, yeah, but how many you have, you said you had your
Oh,
other
so
rate,
that would,
right?
so yeah, that would, 500,000 a day times.
Times
That's
365
365
days, that's 182,500,000.
Yeah.
And there's,
40?
yeah, and there's, yeah, we'd be less than that,
Okay,
even selling the water.
gotcha.
I say continue,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah, make a
continue with
motion.
the, studies.
make a motion.
I make a motion.
Okay,
Continue with the studies.
yep, good.
I'll second.
Second by Kim.
How do you vote, Belden?
Yep.
Herrick?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
AB, yes.
But
Thank you.
are there particular things, besides my nagging, question of Xenia being a customer, are there other things that we have specific questions for we want prioritized?
Now, right now it's Xenia and the Jordan well.
I'm just asking. So, okay, if not,
I think that suffices.
Thanks,
Uh,
Ed.
certified site, any idea
I'll
on?
have an update for you at your next board meeting.
Okay.
And the water tower, I hope everybody knows, I got lowered.
It did.
Yeah, really?
We watched
It was
it.
quite the deal. People
Oh, you
watched it,
kidding
yeah.
me?
Yep. So for the record, that was no cost to the utilities, and you helped, and Ben helped Pat to negotiate that, and so anybody that wants to say that that was a cost to the utilities or the citizens,
It was not.
correct.
It was not cost of utilities. We're waiting on an electrical part, crossing our fingers that'll come up soon, and then, Ben will be able to put the water back in the tower. Right now it's empty, but usage is so low this time of year, the existing tower is fine
Gotcha.
for what we need.
Outstanding.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Energy and Infrastructure Revolving Loan Program Application Award.
We got awarded and we put that stuff in the bag. That's gonna be related to what Chip is gonna talk about too. So we can move on to item number 7.
Okay, review of electric substation project. Discuss joint collaboration between city and utilities, Chip.
So, board member Belden asked me
Thanks
to
a lot.
cover this.
Got you driving the bus over me today, or?
So you.
I did, I
that's
don't
the
care, I'm
facts,
fine.
so,
No, I'm with you.
What, you had some ideas, I think you wanted to vet those with the rest of the board.
Is there a marker here? Can we write on the board, or?
I don't know what you have there.
Well, we'll see, we'll just give this a shot. Okay? Can we write on this one?
Yes.
Okay. So this thing's $7 million, right?
5.6 million.
Well, let's just leave it at 7, because that's what I was looking at before. Is that okay? Right?
The handout at your places from your May meeting has 5.6 million.
Okay, so 7 million. And we get 80,000 from that savings from the franchise fee, right?
Right.
So the ask in blended dollars would be for $3 million of TIF money would be paid at 240K ballpark, okay? You with me? That's kind of what we talked about. So that's the $80,000 of franchise savings that we are passed through, ballpark, because 80,000 equals 250 in TIF terms, right? So the difference between these two is 160K, okay? Right? So we took the 7, it's not 5, 6, it's 7, but anyway. So now you're down to 4.
I disagree.
That's fine. I'm not asking you to agree. I don't care. All I'm saying, I'm with you, that's fine. And you can make this less, you can make this better, and we can not do it, I could care less. But this is what I looked at.
You should look at page 11 of the
Hold on a
PowerPoint.
second. So this 160 is sitting right here, right? So this 160 is, the savings from using 3 million of TIF, okay? We still have 4 million to pay for. So that's a blend of that 2.5 low interest money, and that's the reserves.
$1.5 million.
Potentially, if it works. I don't know if it works. You guys have to tell if that works. So that's gone. So now you got $160,000 a year that you gotta figure out what you're gonna do with, right? So if you give half of that to the city, that's their benefit. And you give half of that to us, that makes the 7 million, 80,000 times 20 is what? 1.6, right? So you take that off the cost, so that makes the 7 million down to 5.4 in today's dollars. Is that fair? You agree with me?
It brings it back to, yeah.
Yeah, so if it was 7. So you take the 5.6, now it's 4, whatever, I'm with you. So then the city benefits from 80,000 a year times 20, they get 1.6 over the 20 years too. And we never have to talk about the franchise fee again, because we gave it back to them as far as the savings, because we saved the utilities 1.6 and the
So the proposal involves shifting the franchise fee.
not the fee, just the savings. We nullify that motion we made and we don't raise rates,
It remains with the city.
this is all in the concept of not raising rates. So conceptually, if you could put that into that budget thing,
I'll tell you
If it would
later
work.
why
and if that didn't work, that's fine, that's,
you to cover this, Brian,
yeah,
and
that's
it'll
fine,
make sense to you.
that's fine. I just, that's all I was trying to. And if it works, it works, if it doesn't, it doesn't, if they don't wanna play or do that. Oh, and there's a pending insurance expense too, correct? So
Yes.
this is another thing to think about. If the utilities owes the city $500,000, and we could,
And let's walk through for everyone, new board members,
Okay,
that's
sorry.
related to past shared projects.
Yes.
Housing developments, city hall, those types of projects that have happened in the past, yes.
so the city's contemplating a bond, and Ash, you can jump in here, whatever. But the utilities owes the city $500,000 over the next 20 years, okay, for shared projects. And so if we wrote a check for that, which wouldn't be dollar for dollar, I wouldn't support that.
It's less than that, cause part of that's already been transferred to the
But what,
city.
but
$450,
$500,000,
$450, $450.
okay, but $457,000 is worth a heck of a lot less over 20 years than it is today, right?
Time
Okay.
value of money, right?
Yes, so what are we at? I mean, that's the negotiation, maybe that's 80%. Anyway, you give that money at one time to the city to negate the need to raise taxes or go into debt for insurance, and that covers the first 2 years, and at the third year, they take the 80,000 that we just walked through times 1 times 3 years, and that covers our first 3 years of insurance. No need to raise taxes, no need to borrow debt for,
The insurance is higher than that, I think is the drawback.
well, I thought, Ash, you told me it was 250.
That was 269.
Okay, but I'm just saying, now you're looking for
You're
19.
talking about 80,000 a year though.
Well, no, you pocket the 80,000, year 1, year 2, year 3, you've got 240, right? So you're gonna need 250, I would hope we can find that.
It's 250 per year though.
Correct, I get that.
So, yeah,
So
okay,
we are,
got
if
it.
we write them a check for 500 today, they got it the first 2 years. By the third year, you've got your 240, because you saved 80 for 2 years, you got it the third year. Sorry. That's,
Yeah.
I don't know, and I don't know if that works, I don't know if that's something that would be workable to make things cheaper or not. That's,
I think it's something that we can evaluate. I think just here to gather facts and talk it over with the whole board, and I can share more with you later about a couple
and
of
if
things,
it's,
so.
and if it's of the mindset that things don't need to travel across the desk, then that's the answer, and whatever.
Sure.
So,
So, to follow, more information to follow, I think, is kind of where we're at, so.
but congratulations on getting that. Did everybody understand what that is?
Congratulations to you.
Well, you
Yeah.
did all the work. So, thank you for all the work
Yeah,
you
we
did.
have the terms on that, and there's an email at your places on that, so,
Thank you for doing all of
you
it.
bet. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
But does everybody understand the difference in that interest number? If we bonded for, what, 2.5 million over 20 years, what's that rate, 2.5%?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be.
Or it's
looking
2%.
at probably 4.5% for a bond market borrowing.
Okay, so 250 basis.
4.5.
Yeah, so what is that savings over 20 years? Ballpark.
More than 100,000, easily.
That's,
I wanna be low. It's a couple 100,000.
good job.
Real money.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, city administrator reports.
Okay, I'll try to go through it quickly. On the financials.
I'm
yes.
sorry, I don't mean to go back on that, but does the board want Chip to look at that or not? Because, just because I wanna do that doesn't mean that we have to do that, because what it involves commingling city and utility funds, that's what that means. So we would ask the city to commingle funds, and if the board doesn't wanna do that, then Chip doesn't need to go do a bunch of work.
With concepts for the board to take a look at.
But if the city council doesn't want to do that, there's no point in it, though, right?
Sure, it takes two to tango, you bet.
I mean, if it's gonna, help with rates and stuff, I'd make the motion to go forward.
I'm all for creative, legal ways to benefit both entities from a financial perspective, so I've always had that mindset, so.
So the motion is to refer the item to Chip to provide more information.
Yes.
I'll second that.
How you vote? Melton?
Yep.
Herrick?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Avy, yes.
So we're just voting that we're gonna get more information.
Yes,
That's all we're
Yes.
doing.
yeah.
Okay.
Is there a timeline we have to act on that revolving loan fund?
I think that'll be forthcoming.
Okay.
Yes, that gentleman with the economic, Jeff, he's working on it.
Okay.
Okay. Go back to the financial report. On the first page, we have 7.8 cash on hand. Next page, that shows from July 1st until the end of November, we have a plus number of $475,000. Page 3 shows that we still within our budget. Our budget is 3.4, we spend 1.3. Page 4 shows this month, November, from the beginning to the end, we have a plus number of $39,000. The next page is the breakdown of our budget, and we apologize that you had to go through these remaining pages. Just look at page 8. The new copy machine skipped the whole thing. Page 8 shows a breakdown of utility budget. And then we go into delinquent account report, no change. The next report is the delinquent account paid in full, no change. And that takes us to page 2. The next report is payment agreement. We added 6 people with the check mark on the right and left hand without saying names. Paid in full payment agreement, we have 3 people will be shown on first page and 2 shown on the second page. Next report is the budget billing. No change. The report after that, deceased and bankrupt, no change, and the outside will go on for your information.
Okay, public forum.
Is there,
Yeah.
is there any interest in each person being assigned a different function within the board? Like the city council has the streets, they got cemeteries, they got sewer, finance, and something else. So we'd have, make them up, whatever 5 they would be. Water, electric, I know, but there's more than that, right? Ask Pat to find 5 and stick us all on one. Well, we can't, Neil, we've had your meeting about how do we help represent, initiatives or whatever.
Yep.
Every time we talk about a substation, you gotta start over because I know nothing about a substation, right? So we go 6 months, don't talk about it. And so how do you avoid that, right? Anyway.
Okay.
All right, Pat's giving us 5 next month.
Didn't have anything. Adjourned.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.